Coach is renewing Corey's spirit in real time.
I didn't realize that was necessary, Corey. Are you really
well? I'll tell you this.
Demoralized today.
The first hour was a bit rough.
Spencer Peters would say the same thing.
Oh, so Mike, here's a question for you, Don. How do coaches? Because I know how fans deal with losses. I mean, does it just completely ruin a coach's weekend when you lose?
Completely ruin? No, because if you've coached very long at all, you realize sometimes there are days, Corey, when you feel like you cannot even put your finger in your eye. You know, there are days when nothing goes right, and there are other days, amazingly enough, where everything goes right. You know, you've seen, if you've coached a long time, you've seen both extremes. So today's game is hard to explain. It's not hard to explain that Purdue might beat us, but you certainly wouldn't expect a decisive 17-point win. That could have been 24, as you mentioned, the goal line play. We got off the hook on that one. But they deserve to win the game. They beat us in just about every way, the only exception being punt returns and kick returns.
Trying to pick my comments here wisely. Steve says, I have never second-guessed QB play, but what did we have to lose in getting Padilla a chance today? I'll tell you what. I agree with that comment for the last drive. Don, I haven't addressed this yet until now, but I'm glad Steve brought it up. Why is Spencer in the game? Why are our starters in the game when it's 24-7 and there's like a minute to go? Wouldn't that be a good time to get your backup some time?
Short answer, yes, absolutely. I actually, on that particular point in the game, I was actually looking. We had 10 guys on the field already, and I looked for the 11th guy. That was the quarterback, and I was hoping to see Padilla standing next to Brian. It wasn't. It was still Spencer. I knew at that moment Spencer's back in the game, honestly. And, of course, what Brian's hoping for is if we can score one more touchdown, if we can cut it to a 10-point loss, that certainly makes us feel better. It doesn't take the sting out because even the people that are voting would be aware because the game's seen on so many levels. They would know, well, it was really a 17-point game. Iowa scored, with less than a minute on the clock. So as you say, would there be anything wrong with getting Padilla in there and getting some reps? First off, would it be hard to imagine that we might ask him to throw the ball every snap? We're trying to score with a little bit of time left. It would have been a great chance to find out how Padilla might, even though the game's not on the line, at least he's feeling the pressure of them knowing he's got to throw the ball. We're not likely to just run the ball and go home at that point. We're trying to get another touchdown. So I would love to have seen him in that situation. I do understand that the coaches decided, we need to try to gain some momentum into the off week. And if we can score here at the end of the game and cut it to a 10-point loss, that certainly sounds better than 17.
Don, does Iowa win this game if David Bell doesn't play?
If David Bell did not play? Yes. Good question. I suspect we'd still lose. And I say that just because Purdue's got other good receivers.
Yeah.
He had a lot of the yardage. He had half the yardage pretty much. But the truth of it is, if you eliminate David Bell's receiving yardage, they still outgained us. I think they outgained us more than 2-1. Do you have the stats there handy?
Yeah, so total yards for Iowa, I'm looking at the wrong. Hold on just a second. Total yards for Iowa in this game, 271 and 426 for Purdue. So, and I can pop this up here if we want. 271 total yards for Iowa, and David Bell had 240 yards.
And with all due respect, we got a lot of those yards at the end of the game, too.
15 total yards, Don, for Iowa's offense until I think that second to last drive where they started to move the ball a little bit. 15.
You're talking about second half offense?
Second half, excuse me.
15, yeah. Yeah, and you were struggling. And again, it's not all on the offense. The defense has to help out. They got to get off the field.
Yeah.
And, of course, Purdue makes it difficult for them to achieve their goals because they execute very well, even in long yardage.
Kind comment here from Charles. Sure you appreciate that, Don. Question. Go ahead, Don.
I'm just going to mention, I appreciate what Charles says, but just to ease everybody's mind, this cancer is not malignant. I'm going to be fine. I'm planning to live a long time. I'll have a couple of scars on my arms, but that's simply because I got to coach college football for 37 years and probably spent more than just a little too much time in the sun.
Proud scars, right, Don?
That's true.
Okay, Spaghetti Factory says, why doesn't Iowa try more screens to Laporta? He's athletic, hard to tackle. It'd be an easy way to get Laporta easy touches. I will say they seem to run a lot of screens for guys like Fant and Hawkinson. Why not get Laporta more involved in that type of action?
That's a very good question, and Spaghetti Factory is right. You might recall we've run maybe 2 or 3 screens to Laporta. It's been effective because typically he makes the first guy miss. He doesn't make him miss necessarily, but the first guy does not get him on the ground. I'll say it that way. He's not going to juke anybody out of their shoes, but what he will do, he'll still put his foot in the ground and change direction, and you'll get a hand on him, but it's an arm tackle, and an arm tackle is not going to get him on the ground. So I agree. We need to make a better effort to get the ball to Laporta. He was our leading receiver, as I recall. But there are other simpler ways to get in the ball, and the most obvious is something as simple as a screen.
Appreciate this comment from Michael. He says he enjoys our content on YouTube, and Coach Patterson, you are the best. So appreciate that positivity on a day where, man, it is a hard day to stay positive. But we have had some, I will say, there are more positive fans this evening, Don, with our calls. The calls have started to diminish as people, I'm sure, are intrigued by just listening to your insight. But a lot of positive fans tonight. A lot of people saying that, look, this is one game. And I kind of outlined some scenarios, Don, that kind of simplifies things, I know, and you probably don't look at things like this, but my 3 options of how to view this loss were A, it was a fluke, which I don't believe it was a fluke because we've seen Brom and this team do the same thing to Iowa, not in this much dominant of a fashion, but they've consistently beaten Iowa. Bell has consistently burned Iowa, so I don't think it's a fluke. The second possibility is that Iowa simply is not as good as we thought, and that may very well be true, but I tend to side with the third option, being this is a bad matchup against a coach that, like it or not, probably his favorite team to play is Iowa. And Iowa had a bad day. And also, you got to admit, the Riley Moss injury came at the worst possible time, didn't it, Don? I mean, this is the one team you don't want to be down one of your starters at corner. Well,
I hesitate to say that Riley would have performed better than Terry. We don't know that for sure. I'll say this, and I've said it before. I had a lot of confidence based on previous games as to how Terry was going to play.
Yeah.
He would say he did not play nearly well enough. But my only point is David Bell can make a lot of corners look bad. It wasn't just Terry Roberts. It wasn't Hankins either. He would have been able to make number 33 look bad also at times because he's just that good a player. So I think I don't think it's fair to put all the blame on Terry anywhere near all the blame. Could he have played better? Yeah. But he went out there and he competed. He played as well as he can. The players would even tell you there's not much difference in his game and the game of Riley as well.
Well, and I'm more thinking, Don, maybe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but as much as Matt Hankins was struggling to contain Bell, if Riley had been in there, do you think Phil would have switched more things up to try to get more matchups with Riley on David to see if he could make a difference on Bell?
Probably.
Probably so. That is one thing they didn't have the luxury of doing. I don't know if, they didn't really do that a whole lot. I didn't really see Terry Roberts on Bell all evening. Now, I could be wrong on that. I have to look back at the tape, but
he was some.
Okay.
He was some. I don't know how many balls were targeted at Hankins versus Terry Roberts. I'm not sure, but it looked to me like it was kind of an equal opportunity thing. They went after both of them.
And that's a question from Chase. I didn't watch the Iowa game, but did they even try to switch anything up on guarding Bell? My answer to that question is no, Don. They seem to kind of stick to their game plan and leave Hankins sort of on an island. And the end result was we popped up the number earlier. I'll pop it up again. 11 catches, 240 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah. You saw one time in particular, I think it was a third down. Coach Parker decided to pressure him. And we would never probably go straight man coverage, but on that particular snap, as I recall, it was man free. Sure enough, Bell beats Hankins on a drive route going across the field. And now when he turns up the sideline, he's going to run for 60 yards in that play, gain of 60. And they caught us. Obviously, if you're going to pressure the quarterback, you better get there because the defenders are chasing their guys and they're doing the best to stay with them. But if the protection can buy enough time to the quarterback and the receiver's good, he's gonna win versus any and all corners. And if the ball's accurately thrown, it's going to be a big play. That's exactly what happened.
Steve makes a comment, or a question, I should say. Are the two freshman receivers, he's talking about Bruce and Johnson, leading Iowa in receiving yards besides Laporta? That's a good question, Don. You and I had a conversation the other day about how underwhelming Tyrone Tracy has been this season. Charlie Jones is obviously, I thought, played admirably, especially in special teams. As far as offense is concerned, Keegan Johnson, well, he made another big play, yards after catch on the first play of the game. Boy, it felt good. One play in, and then, of course, the interception ensued.
Yeah, you're right. That was great to see. Of course, we had 4 receivers on the field. It was a trips formation to the left side, and Keegan was over on the weak side all by himself. Ran a slant. The ball couldn't have been thrown any better. And what's nice about it, he did something after the catch. And for that matter, he got a really killer block from someone coming from the other side of the field. I forget who it was, but it was a blow-up block. And nowadays, of course, you got to worry about getting a flag just because you blindside a guy. So I guess you're supposed to, if the guy is not aware you're about to block him, I guess you're supposed to back off a little bit. So it's not quite such a hard hit. Is that what avoids the flag? It seems ridiculous to me that you can be flagged for a blindside block. I mean, if the defender doesn't see you, whose fault is that? It's the fault of the defender.
Don, I think I'll just say this, and you might disagree with me. I think Seth Benson is very fortunate that he did not get called for targeting and the flag got picked up in the second half, because he gets called for targeting there. He's out for the first half against Wisconsin. And I think it was probably, I don't want to say it was targeting, but I was not convinced that it wasn't on replay. I mean,
yeah, I don't even know if they showed the replay in the stadium. I know when I saw it live, I did not think it was targeting, just because I was pretty confident he did not lead with the crown of his helmet. Maybe he did. I haven't seen the replay.
I think he did.
I think
he did. They did show the replay. Now maybe you watch it back and disagree with that, but I think he's fortunate, because again, boy, that would be a huge loss.
Now, to my knowledge, Corey, it wasn't even reviewed. I think the white hat simply said no flag. My guess is the flag came from what they call the center. I think they call him the center judge. Is the new official. And let me explain to people. Behind the offense, you have the guy in the white hat. He's the referee. He's in charge, and he sets off to one side. And now they put another official behind the offense, sitting off to the other side. And that center judge, as they call him, I believe, he's got a big capital C on his uniform. His job is primarily just to spot the ball. It seems a little. I believe that's the guy that threw the flag. And of course, the white hat has the right to overrule any and everybody on his crew. Obviously, he would have to say, "I saw it really clearly, and it's not targeting." It appeared that that's what happened. The referee simply said, no, that was not targeting. And as I know it, the other team has the right to say, maybe they have to burn a timeout. I'm not sure of the procedure nowadays, but at the very least, if you burn a timeout, obviously there's time to review that particular hit.